Welcome inside the wonderful world of pro football now for another week. I'm Ron Burke. As always, glad to have you aboard with us. The first quarter of the NFL season is over. How does your team stand? To discuss what's going on around the league, let me introduce the Brain Trust. First, my left-hand man, as always here in Philadelphia, is Brian Baldinger in the nation's capital, the DOC, Doc Walker, and from Dallas, Texas again, the man we introduced to the show last week, Tim Brown, coming to us courtesy of Bodog Football. Gentlemen, we are a quarter of the way in. Baldy, let me start with you. Your first quarter impression so far. What stands out for you in the league?
You know, just the level of execution of some of these teams. I mean, the way that Tom Brady is playing right now, completing almost 80% of his passes, it's unheard of. The way that Tony Romo is leading this Dallas Cowboy offense right now, just exploding on the scene in this first quarter. The fact that Green Bay is undefeated, I think it's a good mix. AFC, NFC, in the way these teams have started.
Doc, Baldy might have named it all. Anything stand out for you?
Well, that's Baldy. That's what he does. You know, we got Tim and I have to take what's left.
He's really not used to handling the ball. He's a lineman, you know.
The haves and the have-nots, but injuries. I think really I'll go away with September at the number of injuries.
Tim, what do you see in the first quarter that stands out in your mind?
Well, I'm just really shocked at how a great team like San Diego can be brought to their knees by a head coach like Norv Turner. You know, I thought with the offensive mind that he has, and the offensive guys that he has, that they would really be able to do something, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, well, guys, let's get into a marquee matchup this weekend. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a nice upstart team in the NFC, going to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Indy has a chance to be 5-0 for a third consecutive season, and we know their record. We know what they've done in recent history as champs and everything, Baldy. But when you look at this matchup, you have a Tampa Bay team led by a solid quarterback in Jeff Garcia, completing about 64% of his passes. The Colts defense in particular has taken some hits. Marvin Harrison has the injury problem. How do you see this matchup versus between these two teams, one on the upstart and the other one that's definitely solidified?
Well, if you look at Tampa right now, they've gotten good leadership from Jeff Garcia. So, I mean, they've solidified that side of the ball. They're not a scoring machine. But defensively, they're the #1 scoring defense in the league. They're giving up 11 points a game right now. They've introduced 6 new starters to that defense. Jovan Hay, Kevin Carter, their defensive line, Cato June and Barrett Ruud. So they've upgraded their defense, and they're playing well. But if I look at this game, I say to myself, Indianapolis is going to just dust off that Super Bowl winning game plan that they had, because the defense that they see in Tampa is almost identical to what Chicago gave them. And so checkdowns, Dallas Clark, the running back, and if they break down, they'll just go up top to Reggie Wayne if you break down defensively. So I don't see Indianapolis changing much of what they do.
Well, Tampa's got to make some adjustments, at least in this case, because, Doc, you talk about an offense that relies, at least in some part, even though he's been kind of off and on as a pro. In Cadillac Williams, he's now out for the season because of knee injury. How does Tampa Bay account for his loss when they're going to play a team that theoretically should put up a lot of points in this game, or at least a significant amount of points?
Well, when you lose your star back, your go-to guy, and then you lose Pettigrew, your left tackle. So now you've got 2 changes, one that on the offensive line, and they're going to have, it was not the week to lose your left tackle if you have Dwight Freeney in town. So I think it could be catastrophic. It's based on the backups and how much that alters the game plan for the Buccaneers and Garcia.
Tim, how prepared is Garcia going in against this defense?
Well, you know, Garcia won't have any problems, man. He's an old veteran. He's a guy that whoever you line him up in front of, he's going to try and make it happen some way or the other, whether it's by running the football or dinking and dunking or throwing the ball to Galloway down the field. He'll make it happen. You know, I think, you know, knowing Gruden the way I do, to speak to the issue of losing Pettigrew, you know, he's going to put a tight end over there. He'll do that all day if he has to stop Freeney. So, you know, he'll alter the game plan to make it happen. But that's a great thing about an offensive mind like Gruden. I think he'll come up with something that'll be very effective for this game.
All right, let's go to an AFC West matchup. The Chargers, they need to change their names because there's a little charge in that team, taking on the Denver Broncos. I mean, what can you say about the Chargers? They lost to the Chiefs. I mean, where's to quote the great late Clara Pella, where's the beef on this team?
You know, I think when I look at this team, and people are screaming for Marty Schottenheimer to come back, the one thing you knew about Marty, okay, we know what his postseason record was like, but regular season-wise, Cleveland, Kansas City, San Diego, Washington, this guy put the pads on Wednesday and Thursday, went out there, and they drilled, and they hit, and they did 9 on 7. And the teams always were tough. They were tough on both sides of the ball. Norv comes in, and I'm not so sure that he took that approach. He said, this team won 14 games. Let's tweak it a little bit. Let's make sure that LT and Antonio Gates get the ball. We're going to leave everything kind of alone. I think they got away from the toughness that got him those 14 wins last year.
See, I think you might be preaching to Doc's choir. Of course, he lived through 7 years of North Turner in Washington. And Doc, those were not, they made the playoffs in '99, but those were a lot of dark years for a coach who stayed in that position for a long time.
You know, I believe in that because I believe, and that's all I know, is have pads on Wednesday and Thursday, 9 on 7, for it to be third tempo at a high level. But Norv doesn't play defense. And the one thing that I'm surprised by is, where's lights out? I mean, where's the defense? These guys, they're not pressuring, they're not tackling, where the big hits. I think that's the most confusing part for me, is that I thought the Chargers were beasts on the defense.
That defense of the Chargers ranked only 18th. And, Tim, the offense, again, Norv Turner, an offensive guru, his offense ranked 26th with LaDainian Tomlinson in the mix and a quarterback in Phillip Rivers who's not yet arrived, but he's a solid young quarterback.
He's certainly a solid young quarterback, and, you know, the issue is, you know, last year without receivers, basically, they had Keenan McCardle, but he was 35, 36 years old. They had the same, you know, Vincent Jackson, those kind of guys. They were still able to make plays and get things done, but they just don't seem to be able to do that this year. And it's really frustrating to watch, you know. You expect this team to come out and really compete and do well, but time after time, they just don't seem as if they have it. And, you know, but think about this for a second. You know, they go from a coach like Marty Schottenheimer, who is in your face, who is, you know, spitting on you when he's talking to you, you know, and really trying to get you fired up, to a guy like Norv Turner, who doesn't want to have anything to do with the players. I mean, when he came to the Raiders, that's the first thing he told me. I don't want to have anything to do with the players. I just want to call plays. You know, it makes it very difficult for a coach to really be in control and to help a team out when they need to be when helped out, if he is not going to be in control.
Well, then that explains his lack of success as a head coach in the end. I mean, it's as simple as that. Our thanks to Tim Brown, who comes to us courtesy of BodogFootball.net. For more insight and analysis, check out BodogFootball.net. See what Tim has to say about what's going on in pro football. We take a break here on Pro Football Now. The Bengals' 1-3 start caused Marvin